The Quick Diz Takes podcast is a Quick Diz Takes production.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Hello, I'm Michael Eisner.
Oh boy!
All right, what's up, everybody? This is a very special episode of the Quick Diz Takes podcast because we have a guest, and then because I have to take the hosting duties of this show. But I am joined by not Tim, but Sarah.
Hey, howdy, hey.
And then our guest for today is he's another podcaster from Beyond the Mouse podcast. Is Craig McFarland.
Hey, nice to talk to you two today.
Yes, glad that you could join us. Well, I guess we can start with just if you want to give like a overall synopsis of what you guys do over at your podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. So we actually started as a movie review podcast a long time ago, about six and a half years ago now. I started with a buddy, and really we wanted a reason to get together, drink beer, and talk movies, and which is why most podcasts exist, I think. But we started as movie reviews, and then we just started to branch off a little bit, adding on some different hosts, and we became the Front Row Network, which the network consists of about a dozen different shows at this point, everything from classic film and also guilty pleasures, flashbacks, those 80s, 90s. I see your Out of Time license plate. You would fit right in on flashbacks. Oh, yes. So we had all those different shows, and my love for Disney was just growing and growing. You know, I didn't actually come to love the parks as much until I was an adult, because I started going with friends, and this was before we had our child, and just absolutely loved going to Disney, loved the experience, and decided that would be kind of my show that I would take on, would be Beyond the Mouse. It took about 13 or so episodes into it that I found my co-hosts, Brett and Vanessa. Mm-hmm. And then from there, we've been off and running. We have right around 110 episodes now, and have kind of a mixture of different things that we do. We always talk about Disney. We talk about the parks. We review new movies as they come out. Kind of that's sort of the backbone of what we used to do with the Front Row movie reviews a long time ago. So we brought that back over. But then we also talk to a lot of interesting guests and different Disney content creators. So we just love to talk Disney, just like you guys. So it's kind of a fun way to be able to speak to our passions and just enjoy it while we're doing it.
In listening to your podcast and kind of going back, you get some pretty big names on your podcast. I mean, between like actors or actresses and like you get like, how does that even come about? Like,
yeah,
do you have like, is it just you guys reaching out, or do you have like connections?
So what we did was about in 2017, so I guess that was almost 4 years ago, or about 4 years ago now, we covered the Lincoln Film Festival in Lincoln, Illinois. It was just up the road from us here in Central Illinois. And one of the guests that we got to speak to that day was Kevin Lima. He is the director of a Goofy movie and Tarzan and Enchanted. And he's also married to the Academy Award-winning director, Brenda Chapman, who did Brave and Prince of Egypt. And so we got to talk to both of them. And at that interview, Kevin had said, you know what, come back to me at the 25-year anniversary of a Goofy movie, and I'll do another interview with you. So we held him to that. And right when about things started to shut down for the pandemic, we reached back out to Kevin. He was so gracious to give us an hour of his time, and we talked to him. And in that, he said, you know, if you want something in life, you just got to ask for it. The worst you can be told is no. And so from there, that kind of inspired us to say, who else might we want to talk to within the Disney universe? And so we have had really fortunate opportunities to be able to speak to. We've now spoken to 6 Disney legends, and Floyd Norman, Tony Baxter, among them, Jodie Benson. So that's been really fun over this past year. And then from there, we've also connected with other actors like Evangeline Lilly, who plays the Wasp, and she was also Kate in Lost. And then most recently, we talked to Anthony Daniels, who played C-3PO, and also Susan Egan, who played Megra Hydra in Hercules, and then also Belle on Broadway. And, it's one of those things where we just ask for it. And certainly we don't land every single interview that we ask for. But I also think that about 2 years ago, we did partner with our NPR station in town, our NPR affiliate. So certainly NPR carries a bit of weight with it as well, and that doesn't hurt. But I think it's really just a matter of building up a resume of people. And these people, particularly during the pandemic, were willing to sit down and talk to us. And I think that they just like talking to Disney fans as well. And it's a different kind of interview for them. We don't necessarily throw the same exact questions that they would normally get out there at them. And I think that they appreciate that quite a bit.
When I was listening to the interview with Susan Egan, as someone who absolutely loves Hercules, I was awestruck just listening. And I could hear, like, in my mind, I could just hear it, and I could envision it voiced as Megara. And then I could kind of switch over to her performance as Belle. And I don't know how you aren't just absolutely awestruck by them.
We were so nervous in the beginning, and still get a lot of nerves, when someone says yes, and it's you want to be so respectful of their time, and you want to do the research, and you want to make sure that you have fun while you're talking to them. But she in particular was such an easy interview, because from the moment that we reached out, it wasn't an agent necessarily that reached back out to us. It was her directly. And just from that moment, even in email, you could tell how bubbly and happy she was to talk about this tour that she has going on now. And it was just a delight to get to talk to her, because she is someone that I think just exudes that positive energy wherever she goes. And I think that came through as well in the podcast. But yeah, certainly there was some nerves. With funny story, Floyd Norman was running about an hour or so behind in his day when he was supposed to be interviewed by us. So we have like his agent calling us and telling us, oh, we don't know if Floyd's going to be able to do the interview and all this. So we actually ended up quitting our Zoom call and walking away and deciding, okay, we'll go ahead and reschedule this and get it together. And then I'm actually going to pick up my son from the person that was watching him. And I get a call, and this person is just like, hi, this is Floyd Norman. I'm so sorry that I was running late. Are you able to do this still today? And I was like, okay. So I turned back around, went home, called back in the troops. One of my co-hosts had decided to take a nap at like 3 p.m. And so I'm like, come on, Brett, you got to wake up. And so it was a lot of fun. And he's one too that people maybe don't necessarily know that name right off the top of your head, but he is such a gifted animator and has done so many iconic films, and he's still working. He's 85 years old. Now he's 86 years old. He would have turned 86 in June, sometime in June here. And he just keeps working. He's worked everywhere from Sleeping Beauty all the way up to Monsters, Inc. and continuing to work to today. It's just incredible, the work that he does. So funny stories like that. But yes, we get nervous all the time. But I think I have a bit of a theater background too. And so I think it's sort of playing on that, like almost like I'm playing a role of an interviewer. So that way I don't get as nervous when I'm talking to folks.
I'm sure that does help.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now with Anthony Daniels.
Yes.
You had put that little teaser video out on Facebook, and he said he was going to go get something. And then you had that like, oh my God, look, like how cool was Anthony Daniels to like meet and talk to? Because that's another one. That's like a cool one.
Yeah, and he, as we went along in the interview, I think he was able to open up a little bit more. And we really do try to do some research and try not to ask the same questions. And a lot of the research is almost listening to some of the interviews that they had done. And in doing that, particularly with Anthony Daniels, he constantly gets asked like the same 5 questions. And we were like, you know what, we're going to make sure that he knows we're not going to ask those questions right at the top. And so we would say things like, we know you talk about this in your book, so we want to talk about this instead. And I think he really did appreciate that quite a bit. And so by the end of it, I think even bringing up the Disney park stuff that we did in that interview, he never gets asked about Star Tours, but you can tell he loves it. He loved working with Tony Baxter on that attraction. So it's cool that we were able to do that. And again, he just couldn't be nicer. He was just such a very, very charming person. And it was just a delight to be able to talk to him all about Star Wars. It's just incredible.
Can you pick a favorite or like have a top 3-ish?
Oh, goodness. It's hard. My go-to, the ones that really stick out to me a lot. I've mentioned Floyd a bunch. We actually had Floyd on twice, and he's one of those because I wasn't as aware of his body of work before we spoke to him the first time. He's someone that I've commissioned artwork from. We have 2 Floyd Norman pieces now in our house. So I loved him. And then I always come back to our 100th episode. We had this crazy zany idea to go back and talk to Kevin Lima and ask him if he would be willing to help coordinate Goofy movie panels. So we spoke to Kevin Lima, and then we spoke to Bill Farmer, who plays Goofy, and then also Jason Marsden, who plays Max. And that was one that when that came to fruition, when Kevin emailed me back and said those 2 guys were on board, that was one of those like crazy moments, like just wild that this was happening, right? So those would probably stick out to me. But then, gosh, like we got to talk to Jodie Benson, like she's Ariel in real life, like I don't know, it's really hard. It's difficult to pick, and it's cool to see different aspects of the company and different aspects of the studios, like Leslie Iwerks, who for all of us Disney fans, bringing the Imagineer story to us is just so great, and so it's just fun to talk to creative people in general. So I gave you like 6 or 7 answers because honestly, it's hard for me to pick one. Yeah.
I mean, aside from the amazing people you've been able to touch base with and interview and just kind of have those honest conversations with, even, I don't remember what episode it was, but you have like your best Disney parks memories. Like even those things resonate with people who are listening, and they go, yeah, I had a similar experience, or, oh, I have a great memory of that too. And it just kind of, I don't know, it's a good listen to. So, I mean, I enjoyed it. It was really fun to listen. And I don't know, I feel like you kind of connect with your listeners on a different level than just like, oh, we're interviewing this person or this person. And it's good to hear.
Yeah, I really do appreciate that. And actually, I love just the episodes where it's just Brett and Vanessa and I talking about the parks, because we decided a long time ago we didn't necessarily want to focus on news because news changes so frequently and, it could be wrong one day to the next. But it's just so much fun to just reminisce about the parks. I'm someone that doesn't get to go as often. Brett finds a way. He's been back to World. Has a trip planned to land this summer, and then he's back to World for the 50th. So he'll be there quite a bit. But Vanessa and I, we're more of like a once every couple of years kind of folks. And I keep really the parks alive in my memory and honestly in my heart by Disney content creators. So if we can do that for someone too, that's exactly what we want to do. And it's just a lot of fun to chat with those guys because we banter back and forth all the time. And Brett and I, it's almost comic how much we pick on each other during the show. But I love both of those two. And it's just really neat that we get to continue to do this as a passion and that we get to have listeners. We're so grateful to have listeners. I mean, there's so much Disney content out there. It's great to be able to have that feedback and to interact with people. We actually just started a Facebook group, which I liked so much better than our page. It's definitely something I would recommend to any content creator out there because then you can really interact much better with your audience. And we've started to do that more and more and just love the opportunity to do so.
Yeah, you like the 3 of you together. I really like the especially the last one, it was the sidekick draft one, but like the draft, like that really shows like, you get the little nitpicky and then the little is that really like, I liked all that. I really liked that episode. That was like, but it just shows like how well you 3 get along and how like, it was good.
It's really fun. And I should say, this is a spoiler alert for your listeners. I'm pretty sure I won that draft. Once the final total comes in, I finally won a draft and I was excited about that. There was a couple of people on there that I might've picked that people were like, oh, I don't know if that's a draft, or a sidekick, but I have to ask the 2 of you. So my number 1 overall pick, this has been contentious because people have said, I don't know if this person's a sidekick, but I picked the genie from Aladdin. The genie to me is the ultimate sidekick. I mean, I don't. So thoughts? Do you think that the genie would qualify?
I would say, because I was saying this to myself during, like, if the movie's Aladdin, so the main character is Aladdin. So any person besides that would be a sidekick. But then I know you'd picked the Wasp, but that's the sequel. It was Ant-Man, and then I know the argument of Winter Soldier and Falcon and stuff, but they have their own show, yes. But then Avengers, the whole it's like Captain America, it's Iron Man, it's Thor. I think are the main, like, in that case, I would say, at least in Marvel, you'd have to, if you have multiple movies, you're the main character, like that. But yeah, and my point would be, if the movie's not named after you, you're a sidekick, and then then Marvel's a different story, but it's still
All right.
If Pocahontas can have Miko and Flit, then Aladdin can have Abu and Genie as sidekick.
Thank you. So, okay, so both of you two, I need you to defend me.
Well, I voted for you. I voted
especially
for you,
in this. Thank you. I appreciate the vote. No, it was just one of those things. And then we interviewed someone after that, and we asked them, like, what do you think about the Genie? And he said, because the Genie gets essentially his goal accomplished, that he doesn't get to count as a sidekick. And I'm like, come on, are you kidding me? So anyway, so those are always fun too. I honestly had such a great time with those drafts. We've done 3 of them, and I want to do more, but we did the song draft, which was really fun. I lost that one. And then we did the villains draft, which was really fun, and I lost that one. But I'm pretty sure that when the votes are all tallied, I have won the sidekick draft. So now we are actually, each of us have taken 1 draft. So where they go from here, I'm not sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and then even that other, the March Madness podcast you did with that was cool too. I mean, I like all those, like, ranking things and fighting for things. Like, I like all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, we love lists, right? And
yeah.
So it's really fun to be able to do that, and to bring on board different content creators, like we did with the March Madness. Those are the guys that I really have connected with a lot and really enjoy. We had John Sakari from Big Fat Panda, and then we had Justin Suter from Disney Dads, and then Matthew Kroll from the Imagineer podcast. And just great. It's so cool to be able to see like your show. I mean, there's so many awesome outlets for fans of this company and of these parks to be able to go and listen to them. And you could listen all day long to different podcasts and different content creators. And that's really a neat thing. There's really no other company out there that you can say that about. Maybe some gaming companies perhaps have a lot of presence on Twitch and YouTube. I'm sure Apple has like a ton of fans out there, but I'm not sure that people have this level of passion and create this level of content based on that passion for any other company.
I think Walt Disney World and Disneyland and the realm of Disney, I think for so long has been considered a child's vacation, a child's amusement park. And so as an adult, you kind of feel not embarrassed, but like, well, this is a kid thing. And then you realize podcasting and YouTubers and vloggers, like, there is a whole community. You have found your people when you listen to, like you were saying, Disney Dads, or you watch Tim Tracker, or I really got into podcasts listening to Lou Mangello on WDW radio. And, you one podcast links to another. And I think that, listening to other podcasts and having other people come on, you just broaden your horizons. You're like, these are my people. And I'm one of those people too. And you feel you're not alone as an adult who loves Cusco or has Pop Funkos and has a Haunted Mansion shower curtain. This is totally normal adult behavior, but you found your people.
Yeah.
Well, and especially people that are around our age that grew up in the Disney Renaissance. So we got to experience that as children. And then now we get to take our kids, or we get to have those experiences as well. You brought up Lou Mangello and you said, do I get nervous during a podcast interview? The most nervous I was ever on a podcast was with Lou Mangello, because, I mean, this is a guy that I really look up to, and I think any Disney podcaster would look up to. And so I was like, we need to be on the ball with this. I need to make sure I'm not fanboying too much. And, so that was one where I was actually more nervous about that than some of the other actors and things that we've had on, and of course, he's like the nicest guy ever, and people have said that even when the cameras are off and he's not doing it, when you just meet him in the parks, he's just such a great guy. But it's still, that was nerve wracking. Going back to that question, Lou Mangello was a bit nerve wracking.
Yeah. I mean, I think I would kind of I don't know, my voice would crack or it'd stutter. I don't know, but it's mind blowing,
Yeah.
Like meeting your idol.
Right, exactly. And, I think at the end of it too, I was like, you should do a whole podcast about, and this was, I think even when we had stopped recording, I was like, you should do like a roundtable of all these podcasts that you inspired. And like my co-host Vanessa is like texting me like, back off it a little bit, Craig, like, take it a little slow here. So it was just a fun trip for sure.
Yeah, because the last time we were in Disney, Shara was in line, but we were doing Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom before they closed with the kids. And I mean, if I go to the gym, go on the elliptical, whatever, I watch a lot of Tim Tracker to kill time. And I just happened to walking by, and he was standing there, and you get that little like, should I, or shouldn't I? Like, is he like he didn't have the camera out, he was just there. I'm like, but I just walked right up to him, and not like him and the wife were there, and it was like we were old friends. Like he was I think the Disney community, more of those type people are who they are in the recordings. Like they say, like with the actors are not like they are certain people, but like
they come at it from, they were fans too. And their channel happened to get a lot of subscribers. And I mean, how grateful must they be that they were able to quit their jobs and, this is what they do full time. And so I think it is really cool when you get those opportunities. I haven't really gotten to meet anybody in the parks, but again, we're not in the parks as regularly. But Brett, last time he did see Lou Mangella, who was doing a live stream in Disney Springs, and he did not want to walk up to him during a live stream, which that I can understand. So he was able to look it up like on WDW radio, and he's like, oh, he's live right now, I better not walk over there. But that's cool. That's great that you did take the time. And also just like the other people that are in the parks from these communities, I met you really, and this is really the first time that we're truly talking, but we've communicated a bunch through Disney Dads and through the Sorcerer running team with Disney Dads. And you, sir, run like a madman. Oh my goodness. Yes, you're always an inspiration to me in that group for sure.
Yeah, it's a weird, you see, I played soccer in high school. And, you like the running, but those first 2 weeks of practice, they make you run. You don't touch a soccer ball the first 3 days. And I hated running. And now it's just so weird that, like, if I don't go for a run, like, you feel like something's missing. So, but I mean, like, things like that. I mean, through that group, I've met Jessica through that group just because she lives a half hour, 40 minutes away from me, and we happen to run the same races. But, like, I don't know anybody. I've never met anybody else, but like you just go on there and just the simple, like they liked my post. It's just a little inspiration and just especially with that group, like that whole Disney Dads, that whole community they've made is just like through, that's like you go on Facebook and everybody complains and this and this, but that like you go and no complaints. It's just, that's a good. And
the relationships that they've been able to form through that group, it's just incredible that like people are taking vacations and things together. It's just like planning their trips around when other people that they've never met before, and it's just because of the compassion and the energy that those three, well now five, I guess, bring to podcasting and to their show and to their community. So it's just really cool, really neat. Like you were saying, like Sarah, that people in this community, they're so welcoming and open, and it's just really cool to be even a little part of that and to bring people into that and be able to kind of express what we're feeling about or what we really miss about the parks or what we love about the movies. We just did Cruella the other day and talk about a fun movie, and like it's just fun to be able to talk about what we love.
And I think too, with this closure and everybody kind of retreating into themselves and kind of watching how they interact and who they interact and how much they interact, I think all of these podcasts and these social networking, that was really important for kind of people to still be able to socially interact and kind of make connections. And I think, listening to podcasts with people with similar experiences and similar passions as you, even if we couldn't get to the parks because they were closed, or I think that was a lot to kind of build community in and of itself because we couldn't go anywhere. We couldn't do anything. And it was a way to kind of keep everyone's spirits up. Like I joined the Disney Dads podcast, after Johnny did, and he was telling me about it and I kind of got into it, joined it late in the game. But I mean, I listened to it and it's kind of like hearing a familiar voice now. I'll turn on the podcast while I'm grading papers or while I'm on a prep and I'm getting stuff done. I was like, oh, it's just a way to kind of keep your spirits up when you can't necessarily connect with people who you usually do.
Absolutely. And there were so many like opportunities for even Zoom meetups and things like that, and I hope that that kind of stuff still continues on, even as things are thankfully opened back up, because you can't get that kind of interaction in an everyday environment. You can't just be able to communicate with people from all over the country very easily, except for through, like, it's great that we all know how to use Zoom now, right?
Yeah, right.
Or, Skype or whatever service you want to use. But it's just great that those were all there, and to be able to go back and listen to those shows, like you were saying. And for me to be able to record those shows, that was a lot of therapy for me between running and podcasting. That's really what got me through the last year, because it was tough on everybody. But being able to plan for a show and know that I'm going to talk to my friends, talk to Brett and Vanessa, it really helped. And then having those little bits of listener feedback, honestly, and I'm sure you two agree, if you listen to this show, let them know that you're listening, because it matters so much when you get just you get a message, or you get a comment or anything like that says like, hey, I really enjoyed this week's episode. It really just like it so helps bring that labor of love into something that is just really fun to continue to do. And so love being able to talk to the folks that listen, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's exciting when you get that comment notification. And I mean, we're doing it because we love it, and it's a chance for us to socialize and connect with people with similar tastes as well. But when you get that comment like, hey, love the show, you're like, oh, so someone else is enjoying this. We're bringing this to other people too. It's like this really weird but like super exciting thing. And it was like 5 words. Didn't matter. It like made my whole week.
That's right. And what's cool about your show is I like that you're bringing on other content creators, because I was going back and listening to some of those episodes, and another Disney podcast. Those guys were really fun. And then the collector that you all had on recently, that was also really cool. So yeah, it's just really very cool that you're able to bring those folks on. And then through you, I've now listened to some of their episodes. And so it just always, that's, you never know how you're going to connect to different people. And it's very cool to be kind of a hub for all that.
Now, I watched this weekend. What was it, yesterday? It was yesterday. Yeah. I was tooling around Disney Plus, and I mean, it was because I had recently listened to you guys, but I put The Rocketeer on because you had Billy Campbell on. And I had watched it before, when that was the first thing I watched on Disney Plus when it came out. And my kids, they were, in and out. But then this time, like, I was very happy. They sat there a lot longer and watched it. And it was like, yes. But that Billy Campbell interview was just like, it was awesome. Because I feel like that was like, people liked it, but I feel like that was such an underrated movie at the time. And then like, even watching it now, like, it still holds up so well. How that movie was like, at least it's a time period movie. But I mean, it's like, I know he said in the interview he doesn't call himself a superhero, but like, I don't know. It's that movie. That's like, that's just holds a special place to me. That was just like probably the first live action like hero-ish movie I had watched. But like, I'm glad he enjoys that movie so much too through that interview. Like, he still holds it in a special place for him too.
Absolutely. And, that was another one that was just like so much fun to make contact with. And my son, I haven't shown it to him yet, because like the whole like Nazi thing and things like that. I'm just not, and I also know that like the Jaws type character that's in there looking for the rocket, that would terrify him right now as a 5-year-old. So I'm waiting a little bit on that, but he did find The Rocketeer on Disney Plus, which was just like an animated Disney Channel show. And I was like, okay, man, I'm really hoping he likes this, but I don't want to push him on it. But he ended up loving it. So now he's going to be like, wait, he's not the Rocketeer, she is, when he goes back and watches that. But the Billy Campbell thing is kind of a trip too, because again, just another one of those like childhood heroes like you. I was running around with like a helmet with tinfoil on, like playing the Rocketeer as a kid. And here I am talking to him. And then afterwards, he had said that he had written a backstory to the character when he was getting the role, and he has found that backstory. He has it in his possession now.
Did find it
down.
Okay.
Yeah, he did find it, and he's like, I don't want to just scan it to you because it's really hard to read. So he's going to transcribe it And he's like, just email me, like once a month or so to check in on me. Cause sometimes it takes me a while to get these things done. And it's funny because every time that I have to, like every time the month is around and I need to kind of like think about, am I going to actually email him and follow up with him? I have to like ask another one of our hosts within our network to be like, is this really okay that I'm following up with him like this? But luckily this last time he emailed me back and he was like, hey, he's actually back at his farm in, I believe, Norway now. And he said that he's working on it. And so definitely in our group, I will share that the second that I get it, but it might be a little bit longer, but it's just so cool to have those interactions and to be able to have those opportunities and experiences.
Yeah, and then I mean, as being a young kid watching The Rocketeer, Jennifer Connelly. You have a crush on Jennifer Connelly watching that movie. And then in your interview, I didn't know that he actually dated her I dated her after the movie, and then you kind of watch the movie, and it's like that almost seems realish, their relationship. So and then and of course you get a little jealousy. You're a little jealous. I'm like, geez, that was a nice childhood crush.
Yeah. They dated for like 6 years or something like that. And so we knew we were going to ask him a question about her in particular, but we wanted to do it in like a really rapid fire kind of sense. So if he wanted to avoid answering anything about that, he could. And we did, and he kind of did avoid it. So we said like, how was it working with Jennifer Connelly? And he's like, well, I fell in love with her. So that was about it. So
noted.
Yeah. So apparently it was very nice working with Jennifer Connelly.
Yeah, apparently.
But yeah, The Rocketeer is just, it's such a special movie. It's such a, as a Marvel guy myself, I can't recommend people enough to watch that movie all the time. I used to always keep it out of my top 5 because, when you're like in high school and college, you want to have like a really cool, like when someone says, oh, what's your favorite movie? You want to be able to be like, oh, it's Mr. Smith Goes to Washington or something, like something very classic. But now like Rocketeer truly is my favorite movie. It's just such a great film. And I can go back and watch that film all the time and not get tired of it at all.
Yeah. And then it's only small, but I love that they still have that little tiny thing in Hollywood studios now. But that it's PV's ice cream thing, but you can see the rocket in the helmet still there. So at least there's a little something my kids don't know it's there. So like, I think when we go in the summer, just walk them over and, hey, notice anything over here? See if they can kind of figure it out.
That's my go-to armchair Imagineering. When people say like, what would you change in the parks? Instantly, Rock and Roller Coaster is gone. It becomes Flight of the Rocketeer. You use the exact same track and you design it like an airport hangar when you're going into it. And then you're flying through the field. So it lightens up the space so you could actually see sort of inside of there. But of course, Rocketeer did not, pardon the pun, but take off as much as the Disney company wanted it to, because there were the talks about sequels, but they just never came to fruition. I think it was just a bit ahead of its time, honestly. I think if it would have come out in maybe even a decade later in the early 2000s, as opposed to the early 90s, I feel like it might have been able to sustain more at the box office and really have a seat at the table with those great superhero films.
Because we did an episode, we had a series where we were doing we'd do a ride and then we'd reimagine it. And we had done Soarin', and my idea was for Soarin' to change the Rocketeer. Instead of sitting, you get strapped in, and then it lifts you up.
Oh, that would be great too. That's great.
I still wanted the Rocketeer in there as a ride. So,
well, hey, then Rocketeer can be in Epcot and Hollywood Studios.
Yeah,
I'll take it.
Why not?
I'll take it. And then we got to figure out a way to get him into Magic Kingdom. I don't know.
Instead of Tinkerbell, he can fly and light off our happily ever after.
Oh, perfect. Okay, that's great. And then
done and done.
And then Animal Kingdom, oh goodness, the Bulldog Cafe. I mean, that's pretty easy. We just put the Bulldog Cafe into Animal Kingdom.
There you go.
Right?
All 4. Beautiful.
There it is. Let's call up Imagineering.
Yeah. Now, you being you're in Illinois, like we're on the East Coast, so Disney World is our home. Like you're smack in the middle. Is one of the parks your home, or is it kind of just even?
So often my co-hosts will make fun of me that I've never been to Disneyland, and I will get that rectified here in the not too distant future. One of my best friend lives about an hour and a half away from Disneyland, absolutely hates Disney with a passion. So what I will do is I will probably go out there and visit with him, and then steal his kids for a couple of days and make sure that they get indoctrinated correctly into what needs to happen. But World is where we've been a bunch of times, and so I would have to say that's where it's at. We also, what's cool about living here in the Midwest is that Walt was from here, so Walt was really raised kind of in Chicago and then moved to Marceline, Missouri. And Marceline's only about a 3-hour car ride. I was going to plan on making that car ride right before the pandemic happened. And so excited to go over there and to be able to walk down Main Street in Marceline. And they have a nice, cool gala that goes on every year that I'd love to be a part of too. So it's cool to have those little bits and pieces here in the Midwest, whereas you all have, much better access probably to the parks, which is nice. But it is cool to be able to see kind of the legacy of Walt and what ended up being what we all love.
Yeah.
I mean, on our show, we talk a lot about how our most favorite things about the parks, our most favorite attractions or rides are those non-IP things. So Jungle Cruise, Small World, Haunted Mansion, things that kind of were those standalone creative pieces that were there before the park kind of took on all of these bits and pieces of the movies. And I think if for people like us who really enjoy those aspects of Disney, like a trip out to Marceline would be amazing. And to see that, to kind of, there's that, what was it called? A one man's dream, that little walk through with the mini models in Hollywood Studios, which will always be MGM to me. I like this. Disney World, and it'd be amazing to go to every Disneyland in the world, which would be cool, but I kind of take that step further and see where it originated, what inspired him to make what inspires so many of us to do what we do for fun.
Absolutely. Brett, one of my co-hosts, actually went there right when they opened back up from the pandemic. He took the trek out there, and he's walking around in these videos, and he's just you can hear him sobbing, and he's a bit of an emotional guy. But still it's just cool to see, be able to walk in those footsteps. And we spoke to somebody that's one of the people that founded the museum out there, and she has this story where Walt actually stayed in her room when he came back to visit Marceline after they opened Disneyland. They were having this huge homecoming for Walt Disney, and he needed some place to stay, and their house happened to have air conditioning. And so he got to come and stay at their house. And then when Walt and Lillian came in, basically they said, what room should we stay in? And Kay, this lady that we spoke to, goes, pick the pink one. And he's like, oh, is that one yours? And she said, yes. And he goes, okay, that's the one I'll stay in. So they ended up staying in her room for a weekend. It's just really cool, those stories and those connections to Walt. It's just a really neat thing to trace those histories and to actually talk to people that even in passing got to meet him, or people that got to work with him, like Bob Gurr, who designed just about every vehicle you can think of for the parks. And again, going back to Floyd Norman, who worked with him on Jungle Book. It's cool to see and talk to those folks before we lose some of those stories. But also just because it's neat to put a human in place of Walt Disney, as opposed to this kind of monolithic legend that we think of him as. It's cool to put the human side on him too.
It's almost kind of like we need to follow all these people around and just document them before they're gone, so we can just encapsulate them forever in history.
Absolutely. And I think that's why some of them are more open to interviews and doing those kind of things, because it is their legacy, and talking about that. I think that they have they feel almost a sense of obligation to be able to speak to who Walt Disney was as a person, because there's just not that many people left that got to really interact with him on a very personal level. And so it's nice to be able to hear those stories directly from them. That firsthand knowledge is just better than anything else you'll ever get.
All right. Well, now we'll play this little game I thought of.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
This was you have no prior knowledge. This is all off the cuff, all
Be
just
nervous.
off the top of your head. It's simple. It's you. I'm sure if you've played, you might have even done this before, but it's three things. It's the other game that adults play, but this is you keep one, you can get rid of one, and then you can either reimagine, refurbish, enhance, modify.
Okay.
That's the word. Whatever you want to do. So I mean, I thought I tried to like wait till so I can kind of play because I didn't have like that big of an advantage. So I waited like an hour before we did this to think of all these. So I have some kind of. I tried to.
He was out for a run. That's what was going on.
Yeah, that's why I was running.
No, he told me he took a break from running. That might be breaking news that you took a break from running today.
Yeah.
That might be something that your listeners are like, wait a minute, are you serious?
If you need to restore faith in him, our youngest son plays t-ball and was missing his uniform. And so I talked to the gentleman who's in charge of the t-ball for town. And he said, I'm going to leave it in the dugout. And on the way there, he messaged me and said, is your husband running to the field? And I went, absolutely is. And I think he thought I was joking because by the time he got to the field, he's like, you weren't joking. And I went, no. Ran all the way to the t-ball field on the other end of town.
I had to get
That's
running.
so funny.
What am I going to do?
That's so funny. Sarah, I often wonder, because I don't run nearly as far as John does, but I'm wondering like what my wife does while I'm out running all this. I guess running the house and making sure the kids don't like kill each other, right? Is that basically what goes on?
Lots of it. Yep.
Okay, cool.
It's not as glamorous as running, but.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough.
What's up, guys? It's Tim. Just here to remind you to check out our new website, quickdiztakes.com. We cover everything Disney, from our newest videos to our newest podcast, blog posts by contributors, and much more. And while you're there, do not forget to subscribe for the latest notifications on when new blog posts are posted and new videos go up. Of course, check out our YouTube page, Quick Diz Takes, and our Facebook page, Quick Diz Takes, along with Twitter at Quick Diz Takes for me, and at Palm Tree Skook for Sarah, Instagram at Quick Diz Takes Tim, and at Quick Diz Skook. And of course, if you like this, please like, share, and subscribe with friends. Thanks for listening, and now back to the show.
So I tried to bunch things, but then there might be a couple just random things. All right. So we'll go with, we're going to go with Spaceship Earth, the Tree of Life, Tower of Terror.
All right. And do you want me to go first then? I'm guessing.
Sure.
I would absolutely keep Tower of Terror because I feel like that is just one of those attractions that I would be so sad if it was gone. And I am sad that it's Guardians, honestly, out in California, although I am so happy that Disney World still has that Hollywood Tower Hotel at the end of Sunset Boulevard. But Spaceship Earth, I feel like I would refurbish because it was set to be refurbished here before the pandemic started. And I think it could use it. I think it could use some updating and some modernization. And I guess based on your rules, that would mean I'd have to get rid of the Tree of Life, which is awful. So all these DAC fans just started yelling at me at their podcast. But, I love the Tree of Life. I actually have a Tree of Life tattoo, not the Disney necessarily. It's more Celtic inspired, but still, I do love that as an icon, but if you're telling me those three, it's the one that's got to go.
I have a question. I just want to clarify before I give my answer.
Sure.
So Tree of Life is an icon, but the other two as icons are also rides. Are you talking about Tough to Be a Bug or the tree itself? Am I getting rid of the ride inside or am I getting rid of the icon?
All above.
I got to find a loophole here.
No, it's all the above because everything is because Bug's Life is inside technically, so it's everything. Yeah, unfortunately.
All right, so I would keep Spaceship Earth. I love Spaceship Earth. I like the current narration voice. I liked it when Jeremy Iron had it. I like it in its current rendition. We've talked about if we could update it, and I was thinking, do someone really funny, like everybody would pick like Morgan Freeman or James Earl Jones to voice the narration. And I thought it was being really fun. And I was like, well, what about Bobcat Goldthwait? And I think that would drive too many people crazy, but I would keep it with the same narration. I like Spaceship Earth. I feel like it's my classic go-to. We do it every time we go. I would modify Tower of Terror, but I would modify it. I like the ride. I like the concept. I like the lobby. I love the whole thing. The only thing I would modify is I would extend the building so you could have additional towers going and not just the 2 that are currently there, so you could move people more freely. So I would almost like copy and paste and just kind of expand it that way. But by that token, I'm also getting rid of Tree of Life and Tough to Be a Bug. I'm not sad about Tough to Be a Bug going. I'm not going to lie to you. My children are petrified now of anything that is small and has wings. But that's the way it falls.
I'm kind
Now
of.
I guess you got to go, right?
Well, I guess I'm on the. I would keep Spaceship. I have to keep Spaceship Earth. That's like, I can't. That's my favorite icon, so I just can't get rid of that in general. But I don't want them to update the ride. I like that old looking, like, same thing with, like, I don't want them to update Carousel Progress. Just leave it. I just like it as it is.
Mm-hmm.
See, I think I would modify Tree of Life and get rid of Tough to Be a Bug. I just don't. It's, you go on it once or twice, you've seen it. I don't know what I mean. I think you can do more of a. I don't think Bug's Life is popular enough to have its own ride or attraction or show, whatever we want to call it. So, what else? Maybe, I don't know what I'd update it to. Can think of another. Maybe Lion King-ish. You could maybe do some sort of Lion King thing in there. And then I like the nighttime project, like that Awakenings thing. I really like that with the the animals coming to life at the end. And then Tower of Terror, I guess I mean, as much as I like that, I think I'd have to, because maybe I'll just be mad at them because I would rather have them go with that original concept of be an actual hotel and a ride. So I'll give them the bad mark on that.
If we get rid of Hollywood Tower Hotel, do we get the Earful Tower back?
I don't know. I guess. I don't think they should have ever gotten rid of that. They should have found another spot for that somewhere.
Even if it was just like behind a quick service snack, we could get like a Mickey Pop or a popcorn bucket. Just keep that somewhere.
Yeah, they should have. The monorail, the bus line, or the Skyliner. Those 3.
All right. So keep the Skyliner because I love it. I know it makes Johnny super nervous because he doesn't like those gondola style rides, but I do enjoy them very much. So keep that. I would modify the monorail and I would just add more cars and lines and make it more accessible. I'm ditching the bus service just for lots of personal reasons. We've discussed on previous shows our dislike of the next bus will be here in 10 minutes. And then you're looking at the screen and about 8 minutes have gone by. And now it's the next bus is coming in 25 minutes. And then the next, but like, I appreciate you're trying to stay up to date, but let's just find a more efficient means of doing things. So if we get rid of that, we can focus more on the more effective transportation methods.
I went, same thing. I get rid of the bus. But I would keep the monorail the way it is. I'd like that, just Magic Kingdom, Epcot, the 3, plus I think it would be more expensive to modify that in the Skyliner. And I think as much as I don't like those hanging things, I think it'd be easier to do this, modify the Skyliner to go, because you can add more stops to resorts and the parks easier than it would be for a monorail. And I think, as much as I don't like those things, it's super convenient and quick, and it's always, it's just always moving. So that's mine.
All right. Well, while I don't always like to disagree with the host, I have to say that Sarah is right, 100%. So we would have to ditch the Sweatmobile, which is the bus, right? That like 1,500 people cram into at the end of the night. And then the Skyliner, although again, I haven't been on it because it opened, we had a trip scheduled for April 2020. Of course, that didn't happen, but it just looks so cool. So I feel like that can stay as is because I want to experience it as is. And then, of course, they need to update those monorail systems, man. They are, every time I see a video about those things, it's like, you could probably do a little bit of TLC to those monorails.
They did take the rugs out, which does help with the aroma. So they're working on it. but I've literally never had anybody agree with me before. You've just made my night.
That's perfect.
A Mickey bar, a churro, and a Dole Whip.
Oh, this is considerably harder.
So Johnny,
Does
you
that mean
can go
you have
first.
to go first?
You want me to go
you
first?
got to go
You
first.
go first, sir.
I'm keeping the churro because the churro is my favorite snack. Specifically the cart across from Country Bear, which I don't know why they taste the best to me from that specific cart. I would yeah. See, this is more. I don't like coconut or pineapple, but I can eat a Dole Whip, but I'm gonna get rid of the Dole Whip.
Oh,
Unfortunately,
brave choice.
you can.
Are those rioters that I hear outside
Yeah.
your house right now?
There might be. I think there's sports being sold out of Ace Hardware as we speak.
Yeah.
They're throwing pineapples at you right now.
Sorry, I mean, it's good, but my hatred for pineapple and coconut is greater, I guess. And then I would modify the Mickey bar, but I enjoy that it's Mickey shaped. I like Mickey shaped things, but I feel like the Fab Five, they're not getting their due. So you can have a Mickey, you can have a Minnie, you can have update it to all. Well, yeah, I guess you can throw Daisy in there too, so you can have the 6. But update it so each one of them get their own shape, kind of like like when we were kids. See that they weren't the chocolate, but the wrestling bars. You didn't know. You opened it up. You didn't know which wrestler you're gonna get on the bar. So the Mickey bar, you get the package. You don't know which guy you're gonna get.
I like that. I like that idea.
Yeah.
I hate the idea of the Dole Whip, but I
Yeah.
like that idea.
Yeah, sorry.
All right. Well, I would. Okay, so this will be controversial within my own household, but because they have now expanded, and I know it's not the same, so don't write letters. It's okay. I get it. I know it's not the same that the Mickey bars you can buy in the grocery store right now versus the Mickey bars at the park. However, because of that, I will say I would get rid of the Mickey bar. And I understand, but there's so much things that you can eat. You can eat so many different forms of Mickey on that property that it's okay. It's okay. I would then modify the churro. And I don't know exactly, I just love I love the thought of it, but and I guess it is a fairly portable snack, but I don't know. There's something about it. Like, I wish that there were like additional, like, I'm a condiment guy and I get that you can get the chocolate dipping sauce, but maybe something more built into it. I feel like there's a lot of ways you can accessorize a churro that they don't explore. So that's something that I would want to have happen. And then you have to keep the Dole Whip. I mean, you have to keep that, right? Like, come on, Sarah, what's your answers to this?
I am keeping the Dole Whip.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
However,
we're agreeing more, Sarah, I don't know. We should maybe start our own podcast here and
we'll record on Fridays. It's fine.
Okay.
You'll be out running.
All right. Sounds good. Sounds good.
So I'm going to keep the Dole Whip. I do love me some Dole Whip. I like the variations. I am all about the Dole Whip. However, I'm going to get rid of the churro.
Divorce.
The idea of a churro is great. Truth be told, and again, we don't need to write letters or start riots. I'd never had a churro until a few years ago when Johnny had to go to his specific favorite cart and was like, "Do you want one?" And I said, "No, I've never had one. What is it?" And he thought, I don't know, I thought he was gonna like fall over. So, I mean, I like cinnamon sugar. I like sweet things, great, but I can pass on that. And I would modify the Mickey bar. And much as you would modify them to include different characters, do you know those like the Nestle's drumsticks? You get the ice cream, it's got the hard chocolate on top, but then you could get some with walnuts. You could get some with like Butterfinger pieces on the top. Let's modify it that way. Let's get, your standard Mickey bar that has the nuts, Mickey bar that has, toffee or Heath or sprinkles, some kind of a topping into that hard chocolate. And that'll be my modification. But churros can go out the door. I'm keeping my Dole Whip.
Well,
Oops. Sorry.
I don't understand getting rid of a churro. That's just.
Well, don't get rid of my Dole Whip.
I'm sorry. I don't know if I was a big fan of Even Stevens, that TV show. And there was one specific episode where he needed to get enough money to buy his own churro maker thing for his room. So whatever.
It touched you. It spoke to you.
There wasn't a Dole Whip episode or a Mickey bar episode.
Well, maybe Even Stevens needed to go to Disney World. Boy Meets World went to Disney World.
Hey,
All those ABC Disney shows.
Far
do now,
superior growing up TV show.
okay.
right? And they go to Living with the Sea, or they go to the
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 Seas.
seas. They go to the seas. It wasn't even the seas with Nemo and Friends because Nemo wasn't a thing yet. It's perfect.
And the crossover, well, a little crossover with the actors from Step by Step.
Yes.
See, I know my shows. We'll go one more. All right, we'll do this: the Polynesian, the Grand Floridian, and the Contemporary.
Whoa.
Right. Ooh.
Who wants to go first?
I'll go first because I think I'm going to have a fairly controversial opinion on this. So the Polynesian, they're just now finishing refurbing. We actually haven't stayed at a deluxe. I feel like it's so funny. Your listeners are like, this guy goes like once every 2 years and he doesn't stay anywhere. But we we stay at a lot of moderates. We've also stayed at Art Animation this last time because my son just loved the Nemo room. But we are currently booked in 2022 because we're kind of waiting a little bit longer to go. But we're booked for the Polynesian for a really long stay. So the Polynesian is absolutely what I would keep it at. I would stay there. And the way we're justifying this is that we had that April 2020 trip that was canceled that we already had money for. So now we're just like, it's just like putting another trip on top of it. So we're currently planning to stay for 10 nights at the Polynesian, which would be just incredible.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, and then I would modify the Grand Floridian to kind of I love the British characters that they do have and the different aesthetic, but I'm such a Mary Poppins guy. I feel like Mary Poppins could have more of a presence there if you're going to go with that kind of like British character influence. I also love Peter Pan, and there is Peter Pan throughout, but I think you can do more with the theming. I get that is the hotel for people that aren't necessarily super wanting to see Disney in your face all the time. But as someone that does want to see Disney in your face all the time, I could see modifying that a bit. And this is where maybe the controversy, this is my Dole Whip, I think, is that I do not see at all the appeal of the Contemporary. To me, it just seems like a very outdated space. It's cool that the monorail goes through there, I guess. We did do California Grill once for our anniversary. That was very pretty, and the sushi was pretty good. But like, as an actual hotel, I would never feel the need to stay there myself. So that's the one I would get rid of.
All right, I'll go next. So I would absolutely keep the Polynesian. I haven't stayed there since I was super small with my parents and my sister. But I love all things Polynesian, Lilo and Stitch. We've been to Hawaii a couple times, and the culture and everything around it is just super intriguing to me. And I absolutely love the Polynesian. I like that they kept the traditional Polynesian god Maui. They didn't replace it with the nice cartoony Maui that we got in Moana. I would absolutely keep that as it is. I was excited, but a little bit nervous to see what they were doing with their updated rooms, just because I liked that traditional piece to it instead of the kind of cartoony. But I feel like they have a decent balance between, respectful culture and tying in their cartoon and their, intellectual property of Moana. I've never stayed at Grand Floridian. We've walked through just this past summer, I believe, or was it Christmas? No. We had gone down with the kids, and we walked through to see all the trees and the lobbies and stuff, and it's very nice. I've never stayed there, so I'm going to get rid of where I've never stayed just because I don't have any sentimental attachment to it as it is. And I've only ever stayed at the Contemporary once this summer. We were originally supposed to stay at Caribbean Beach, and it wasn't open until the last day of our stay. So they upgraded us to the Contemporary, which normally we wouldn't ever go to. Like you said, we stay at the moderates. We stay at the Art of Animation or the All-Stars. Our kids we're in the parks from rope drop to closing. So we're just there to sleep and have a pool day in the middle. So as much as I absolutely loved our room, where we stayed this summer, I would update it because the Contemporary isn't quite so contemporary anymore. It's cool that the monorail goes through it. You're absolutely right. It's still kind of mind-boggling to think that someone said, hey, let's put this train to the parks and then build a hotel around it. And then they did it. Mm-hmm. But it could use some upgrades and some love, and not just like add on the Bay Lake Towers or like the actual iconic piece to the Contemporary needs some love and attention too. So I would update that one.
Well, and it's cool too, like when you see like the architecture of like how they essentially took these like shoe boxes of rooms and they slid them in, to make them work. And that's really cool. I totally get that. I still just want it gone. I'm sorry. Like, that's
All
my,
right, we can agree to disagree.
Choice,
Fine. You kept the Dole Whip. We're good.
All right.
Okay. Now we're all going to be 100% on the keep because I'm keeping the Polynesian too. Because I just love, like Sarah, with the whole Hawaiian culture, the whole, you go there, you get laid back atmosphere. It's nice. Everything about that resort I like. Actually, I'm just going to, and then I would too get rid of the Grand Floridian because I've never stayed there. And I don't know, like it seems to, for my way of life, it seems too hoity-toity, richy. I don't know. You feel,
Gosh.
yeah. Like even if we took the kids in there, I would be holding them by my side. I don't want them running. There's no like, they couldn't get away with fooling around in like the lobby or anything.
It's far too upscale for a 6 and 8 year old boy who
That's
are
the world upscale.
quite active and rambunctious.
And then I think the contemporary, I would refurbish it and I would make the rooms, this would be like the old school hotel. I'd make the rooms look exactly like they did when it opened. Just make it that old. You want to get the feel of a Disney opening refurbishment, just make everything classic. It's your classic hotel. And I don't know. I can't see getting rid of the Murray Blair stuff, and there's just too like.
That's true. That is true. That's tough.
It's always nice, and then you can point out the 5-legged goat to the kids and everything, and so that's what I would do.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll wrap it up with that. And Craig, I don't know if you just want to throw a plug. You want to plug your show one more time and just.
Well, yeah, sure. Absolutely. I would love to have you come and listen to us. You can find Beyond the Mouse just by searching Beyond the Mouse on any podcast app of your choice. And then if you wanted to follow along with us on social media too, the best way, we're on all the platforms if you search Beyond the Mouse, but I really do encourage people to join that Facebook group, Beyond the Mouse Podcast Pals, because it's just a lot of fun. We usually throw at least 1 or 2 questions in there a day, and it's just fun to get to see a varied group of opinions and just a love for all things Disney. So come and check out that group too. And just thank you so much to both of you for chatting with me tonight. This has been a lot of fun.
Oh, no problem. It's been awesome having you on.
Yes, it was. Yeah, it was really cool having you on. It was super easy to, get the ball rolling and get a nice podcast going. So this was really good. So thank you for coming on a Sunday night too. So
very much appreciated making time.
We all have to go deal with children. So
absolutely. It is just about bedtime. So this is perfect for me.
Yes.
This worked out well.
All right. So we will wrap it up there. And again, thank you for coming on, and we will see everybody next time.